Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of Thor issue 28, and that's a pretty awesome cover right here. And the thing is, it kind of happens in the issue, but it kind of really doesn't. It's a little bit complicated. So, we had last left with pretty much Thor and Eddie trying to figure out how to handle pretty much Bedlam's Child and all this like red hammer kind of shit going on with it. And we do get a nice kind of resolution on that. It was definitely somewhere that I didn't really expect it to go. I'm like, okay. Now, even though I have not been reading what's been going on in Venom, this at least gave me enough that I understood the kind of ramifications of what was kind of going on. So we pretty much start off the issue pretty much checking in with Blake, with the whole Venom and everything, and pretty much talking about like myth, serpents, Venom, Donald Blake walking in blood to attain godhood. Where's the justice in that? Gods being creatures of stories. If it makes a good story, then you'll burn and suffer in the darkness forever, whether it's just or not. But myth is slippery, like it snakes and turns like and coils and everything. If it's not justice, maybe it's about revenge, kind of thing. Where it's like, okay, so where's this kind of going to go, especially with like Donald Blake and what he's done against Asgard and Thor and Loki, and what Loki has now done to Donald Blake in trying to create a new god of lies. We then shift back out and we see Darkoth pretty much being pretty awesome with his hammer, and Thor trying to figure out what to do as well. Let's see here. Odin's pretty much just like, let's go frickin' like wreck its ass. Whereas Venom's like, hey, listen, the thing is, it's a kid, it's learning its first steps, it's probably gonna just copy what other people are doing around it. So, if you punch it, it's going to try and punch you back. As we then see Darkoth using the hammer kind of like that to kind of shoot, like, pretty much hellfire at Thor. And I do like how they called it Hellnir, the Devil's Hammer. That was kind of interesting. And we get interspersed pages of Donald Blake as everything's going on. This, of course, really frickin' was pretty painful to Thor, and was able to kind of like put him down for a minute. And Odin's trying to like tell him to like lift up the hammer, and that is a really kind of cool one. As you see, the hammers kind of like hitting each other, and we see that like Bedlam's Child is as any kind of kid at the moment, and would prefer the world would prefer a world unto itself. Like, it doesn't understand like coexisting and doesn't know how to like put that into words. And it's interesting that we then see that Eddie kind of blinds it with some webbing, and then we see Blake being like talking about his eyes as well. We see Thor kind of getting up, but then we see that his hammer is pretty much bleeding from the force of the blow that Darkoth and the symbiote kids Hellnir was able to bring to bear, and that's a big fucking thing to be able to do. And that page just really gets it really well. It's like, damn. So Thor's like, alright, no holding back here. And they're trying to like subdue Darkoth as much as possible, but it is not really working. So Thor's pretty much like, listen, we don't have the luxury of mercy or pride, so we can't do this alone. Let's kind of do this together. And then we see that he teams up with Eddie and takes him on, and we're like, okay, this will be kind of interesting, as even Donald Blake says stuff's about to kind of change. And then we see the God in Black, as that is a really kind of cool fusion of Thor and Venom right there. I do like how it changed up the usual kind of spider symbol and took on the kind of symbol that Thor's been having on his uniform so far. It's like, holy shit. And of course, Darkoth rejects the words, and we see that since they are both kind of like beyond a certain level of the kind of primal fears that symbiotes have of like sound and flame, the god in black is able to utilize that to start like pretty much scaring the symbiote off of Darkoth. And Loki helps out with bringing out like pretty much a illusion dragon that's able to put out like fire and shit like that as well. And let's see. Loki calls him Thornom, which is kind of interesting. But of course, since it's fire, it's alright with Darkoth, but of course the child of Bedlam just freaks out and kind of flits away. And it even flees from its own kind of body. So that's kind of interesting. And then we see that Loki wasn't able to keep that illusion around much longer. And let's see. And that it looks like Bedlam's child has learned at least one trick from his father. He can move freely in time, leaving his goo behind. So Bedlam's kid is still out there, just not in this time period at this moment. So that's kind of cool to learn. And we see that Darkoth is pretty much comatose, and that Helnir was left behind as Eddie takes it up. So like, looks like I'm worthy, but of what? And of course, since Thor bonded with him, he sees that he's like, he understands when a god pretends to be a man, and that he knows what it can cost, as we see Donald Blake. And then he starts changing up, and we learn that this is not actually Eddie Brock, but this is Meridius, the Edward Brock of the future, and he's trying to like save his future and using the hammer. And he's asking Thor if he could save the future, what would you do? Would you at least try it? He's like, depends. What would it cost to those I love? And then they start fighting a little bit, and Meridius isn't being a complete and utter villain, just being like, listen, just let me go, and we'll be fine with this. Odin is like, screw that, swing my ass at him. And he's like, no, this is mine. And he's like, you felt the power of this hammer, to Meridius, to Thor. He's like, yeah, but you haven't felt mine. He's like, I'm not a god, I am more than a hammer, King in Black. And if you're a god as well as the king, you now face the king of gods and the all-father of Asgard, as he starts making a giant ball of energy and blasts him with the full measure of his birthright. And that is just really kind of cool and shows just the power that Thor's got as he's blasting through the hammer, and Meridius is defeated. And he's like, well, what have you won? And we'll see kind of what comes as the goo kind of melts together with Helnir and everything like that. Now, I would think that Meridius probably has the same kind of properties as Bedlam and Bedlam's child, and probably like, well, I don't know, because of how this kind of shakes out. I don't know if the goo can actually do stuff by itself, or what's kind of going on. Then they pretty much take Darkoth and try and pretty much take care of him, which is nice. They're wondering what's kind of going on with the puddle as it then seeps underneath. Thor's like, it's pretty cool that there's like nothing down there, right? He's wondering if he destroyed, if he utterly destroyed it, or Meridius did. And then Loki can't perceive the substance now, and Thor's like, hey, it's just solid rock under there. He's like, yeah, what was I thinking? As we then see that the symbiote goo starts going down, gets onto Donald Blake, and says that now in the Underdark of Asgard there is a serpent, as Blake is now fused together with a symbiote and going kind of nutty, plus all the venom in his eyes from the snake. So this will be interesting to see how that kind of like goes and what will kind of come from that. Now, we probably won't get a answers to that, as we see that we are kind of teased with the next issue, but like there's this Thanos Death Notes one, and then the next issue kind of like piggybacks off of that. So it'll be a little bit before we get an understanding of what's going on with Donald Blake being fused with a symbiote like this. And I'm interested to see and learn more with this. I'm glad that we're kind of back on a more kind of normal schedule. I understand trying to like line up all the different kind of things going on with this Venom and what was going on with the Banner War as well. And we'll just have to see what they kind of deal with like Thor's vision of the future, all that stuff with Thanos and all that, and how this is going to affect Asgard and everything. So I'm like, yay, okay, I'm looking forward to seeing that. I enjoyed seeing Thor having to deal with Venom and all the kind of different kind of shakeups that were going on with that, and what story ramifications we'll get into with this later. So those are my opinions on the issue. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.